and I do know a few people will probably be joining on a little bit late today. And actually, Viviana, if you could just make sure, is it sharing this Canva screen?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay. I don't know what has been with the recordings lately on Google Meets, but it hasn't been recording the screen I'm actually sharing. So the last one was not that good. Okay, so yeah, this is the part 2 of our mastering prospecting. This is somewhat specific to real estate agents. Of course, sometimes we get people who watch this that have a different type of business, but the concepts are very much the same. So part 1, we talked a lot about, okay, whenever I look at my business, so we're making this a 4-part series now, not a 3-part. I want to look at what type of business do I want? What is ideal for me and how I envision my business? So part 1 was a little bit more about if I wanted a business based on referrals, so recommendations from past clients, from people in my sphere of influence. I just have people recommending me out there, and that is my bread and butter. The reason why we pick the type of business you want to have is it's easier to pick the activities that feed into that type of a business. So if I have a business based on referrals, there's specific things I want to be able to pick that fit into it. Part 2, we're going to be talking about if I want a business specifically for listings. If I want a business where I dominate listings, I am a listing agent, and I'm going to tailor this a little bit more niche this down a little bit more to I want to work a specific neighborhood and dominate in a neighborhood. Because if you say, I want to be someone who dominates listings, I will say the number one, the more clients you close and then stay in front of them, the more you're going to get listings in the future. So 7 years from now, if you've closed over 7 years, a ton of people, you're going to have a ton of listings. So no matter which avenue you take in our 4-part series, you're going to be a listing agent at some point in time. And so, but if you want it faster than later, okay, then we want to sit and we want to focus on a neighborhood. We want to focus on a community or multiple neighborhoods or whatever. So part 2 is going to be a little bit towards that. Of course, I always give insight for other things as well. Part 3 is going to be, I want to dominate the internet. I want people to be able to see me and I just organically get leads for the rest of my life through the internet, through social media, whatever it might be. Because let's say I want to go and now I want to start investing. And now I've got a huge following on YouTube, Instagram, whatever it might be. I've got a presence. So that's going to be part 3. Sorry, part 3 will be on the internet. Part 4 is going to be a little bit more of a summed up version. And we're going to talk a little bit about if you're someone who really wants to work leads and the value of that. If you had a team or maybe a small group where you say we have a small amount of us, we're going to talk briefly about the leads at that point, but it'll be a good summary of everything as well. So remember from part 1, for anyone who missed part 1, when I look at any activity, so I say, hey, I want to be a listing agent and I want to be able to work a neighborhood or a community or multiple neighborhoods. And I like, that is my bread and butter, is I just know my business is going to be having listings. So that's where I start because I'm going to feed into it from there. Having the bigger picture helps you filter out the activities that will work or not work. So you may say, okay, well, I'm going to choose to work a lot of investors that are in an area. I'm going to choose to work whatever. It all feeds into each other, and you can pick and change. I can say, okay, I'm going to work divorce leads in this neighborhood, or I'm going to work investors who want to do flips, but I'm going to work specifically in the neighborhood where I want to be a listing agent because I'm going to knock on all the beat up looking houses and ask them if they want to sell, and really try to become almost like a wholesaler for my flippers specifically for this neighborhood because I'm developing a presence in the neighborhood because I want to be a listing agent in the neighborhood. So whenever I pick things, I like to make sure it has multiple effects. So if I am cold calling homeowners, that's fine. However, me calling them one time is going to be a one-time result. If I send if I do divorce leads or I do whatever, like I want to make sure that things have multiple effects. So if I skip trace, so I use a software in my neighborhood, I say, okay, I'm going to work the entire zip code of 95747 Roseville, California. I'm going to narrow it down to an area that is reasonably manageable, right? Because you always want to factor in my time and availability, and you want to be very honest with yourself. How much time do I realistically have? If I were to assign myself a 5-day work week, and Saturdays and Sundays ebbed and flowed on what I did, either I'm showing houses to buyers, I'm doing listing presentations, or I'm spending time with my family, I just know that my 5-day work week, this is exactly what I do. And that's if you're working another job or if you're full-time in real estate. My 5-day work week, how many hours am I going to be able to realistically dedicate? I've known people who said, okay, I'm going to dedicate a 5-day work week, but I work a full-time job. I'm off at 4:30 and I have kids and life. Okay, door knocking is not going to be the thing for you. Like, it really is not. There's things that would maximize your time better. And things that, when you're more limited on time, that's when you need to really choose things that are going to have a bigger effect. So if I'm working a job, then I need to make sure that job makes enough money, not just to pay my bills, but where I get extra money to be able to invest into my business, because I'm going to need to do that. If I'm limited on time, I cannot be limited on time and money and mental capacity, right? It's like I meet people all the time who have this low paying job that takes up a ton of their time, and it's very straining mentally, and they have a hard time focusing on their real estate business because they're just wiped out. They're maxed out. You cannot have all three boxes counted against you and be successful in this industry. So change jobs. I've helped plenty of people get a much higher paying job that gave them more flexibility, and I'm happy to help people do that. So if that's what you need, if you need something that pays the bills now, then get something that pays the bills with a little bit of extra, but you got to be cautious of that. So if I know that I have a job where I have a little bit extra, it doesn't need to be a lot. How do I make that little bit extra go a long way? How much extra do I have? Like, there are things called geo farming, right? Where I can, I can send mailers out to, like, there's all kinds of services. So like, I just had a call with a guy in, I think he's in South Carolina. Yeah, South Carolina, where he says, the only deals I've really closed were from mailers. And I'm like, oh, nice. Do you use a service or do you use whatever? He goes, yeah, once in a while I go on and I pick a new mailer to go out and I send it out to a community. And I'm like, what's on the mailer? He's like, I don't know. I just kind of pick one of their templates. I'm like, okay, if you're going to pay any money for something, have a strategy. That's why part 4, we're going to talk a lot about, if you want to pay for leads, we need to have a serious talk about your strategy, because you have to have a huge strategy. Of course, with anything you have to, but I need to be the analytical genius of, right, and use ChatGPT and maybe Google's Gemini, but I'm going to ask them a lot of questions about what is the best content to put on mailers. What is the best, like, I'm going to figure out, how do I get people to scan a QR code, text a text code? What is the result of my mailers? So if my higher up goal is I want to work in a neighborhood, I need to make sure that I map out my time and availability, my budget, because I'm going to look at, okay, do I need to do mailers? If so, when I do mailers, that's going to cost a decent amount. Or I could skip trace, so a one-time payment, get everyone's phone numbers and emails, and then, so it's one big payment. I've got a farm of 1,000 people. It's probably going to be like $800. Maybe I can afford it, maybe I can't. If you want to narrow it down to 500 homes, great. Then that's $400-ish, let's say. I get everyone's phone numbers and emails. What do I do now? Do I cold call? Well, you have a lot more options, right? If I just send mailers, I have no idea if they're going to take it and throw it away, or if they're going to actually scan it. And then I get people's information. If I put a QR code and they read something, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be able to, or that they're going to be prompted to put in their contact information. If I do a text code At least I'm getting their phone number, but I don't have their email. What's the benefit of email and phone number? I can then run, they call it retargeting ads on social media. I can learn how to run ads there. I can then send them, if you really wanted to, I could send them emails with monthly newsletters or invites. So let's say I'm working a neighborhood of 500 homes. I choose a neighborhood with a park in the center, because if I host any events, like my goal is anytime I want to get in front of these people as much as possible by doing one thing that has multiple effects. So I'm going to host an event at the park. I'm going to skip trace, get all their emails and send them an invite. I can then know that if I have time or if I don't have time, I'm going to go and drop off a flyer at their doorstep, inviting them to an event at the park where I can then meet them in person and build a relationship with them. But what am I going to do past that, right? We got to keep asking ourselves, whenever I pick an activity, what's going to be past that? If I'm someone who creates blog posts, what's the after effect of a blog post? Am I creating a blog post and just posting it? That's fine and dandy, but that's really not going to help you that much. How about I create blog posts because I'm also planning on running search engine optimization ads, or sorry, search engine ads. So I'm running Google ads. And if I have more content on my website, my Google ads will perform better. If I have less content on my website, the Google ads probably won't work as much. So same thing with this neighborhood. If I have extra time in my day, then I'm going to pick extra things to do. So what I like to do with my 5-day work week is Monday through Thursday. Let's say it's Monday through Thursday, or Monday through Friday. Monday through Thursday, my 4 days, I'm going to pick the things that I feel will have the best results for the best use of my time. If I have 3 hours in the day that I can dedicate, or 2 hours in the day, or 5 hours in the day, I'm going to dedicate time to what has the best results. Usually that has something to do with getting in front of people as much as possible. So if I've so tons of time, I'm going to probably go and door knock and just talk to people. I'm going to figure out something of value to talk to them about. If I don't have a lot of time, then maybe I'm going to go and I'm going to add people. I'm going to pull a contact list of everyone who lives in 95747, or in that 500, the 500 names, and I'm going to search for them on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. If I see on their profile they live in Roseville and the first and last name match, I'm just going to add them, whether LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever, because I don't have a lot of time. The nice thing about that is when I add them, now I can go and like, if they accept my invite, I can go like and support their content, like and comment on their posts. I can then, when I do that and they like I have a neighborhood full of people with children, let's say, I'm liking and commenting, your kids are so cute, oh, you're such a great parent, blah, blah, blah. When they like my comment or they comment back, most social media platforms say these people like to interact with each other, so let's share that content more. Now when I'm posting, so now I can go on Friday, I like to be a marketing mastermind genius. So I like to go, let me make sure this is still on. Okay. I like to go and say, hey, I'm going to create some blog posts with AI. So I'm going to use ChatGPT. I'm going to say, hey, make me 20 blog posts that are 1,000 words, or anywhere from 800 to 1,000 words. I like to do that because otherwise it'll make the blog post really short. That helps, attract buyers in my Roseville, California community to click on the link and read my blog post and see me as a professional listing agent within their neighborhood. Boom, it makes 20 blog posts. I schedule 2 a week for the rest of the month, and then I schedule it so that it posts automatically onto my my social media. Now I've sat there on Friday. I didn't do everything myself, right? I created 20 blog posts. Let's say right, or you could do 8 even. So 2 a week, right? 4 weeks in a month. So an entire month's worth of blog posts, have it automatically scheduled to post as well on your platform. Now I'm super busy, right? I get off work, I'm tired. I make dinner for my kids, we eat, they're watching TV and playing, and so I have some extra time, but it's not exactly time where I would be on the phone cold calling homeowners. So instead, I'm going through my list. I'm still present with my family, or maybe the kids are in bed, and so I'm just trying to be quiet, and I'm just adding people to my social media. What's great about that is then when they get they get a flyer on their doorstep inviting them to my event at the park, now they're meeting me and seeing me in multiple ways, right? They're seeing my blog posts, they're seeing me as a professional. Maybe they're also seeing my video log posts, you're right, video log. Right, but we're friends on social media. I'm liking and supporting their content. So they're getting to know me there, and they're feeling appreciated by me there. They're seeing my post because I'm sending them the post in an email, but I'm also posting about it on my social media. I'm also dropping off a flyer on their doorstep for the event. Now we're meeting face to face in the event. What am I going to do once people come to my event? Am I just there to say, hi, how are you, and get them to love me? Or am I going to have some flyers on a table that grabs their attention? So what am I going to do on Fridays? I'm going to think about, and I'm going to scan the internet, and I'm going to take courses, or I'm just going to go to YouTube and figure out, what do top listing agents advertise? Like, how do they get listings? There are, if you're part of the California Association of Realtors, they have a program through, you could look it up on their website, but basically it's a renovate your home and pay at once you sell. So basically, there was a company called Curbio, which is a terrible company that did this, but this other one's much better. So I'm going to have flyers about that. I'm going to have flyers, like I'm going to go and I'm going to find flippers, investors, either people who want to buy rental properties, or people who are flippers. And I'm going to build a list and say, hey, I really work this neighborhood. If you had a great opportunity, a screaming deal, would you jump on it? Because I want to put you on a preferred vendor list for this neighborhood. Yes, I would. Okay, I'm going to make a flyer and spend a little bit of time doing that. These flyers can stay the exact same from event to event to event. In your monthly newsletters, you can have a link connected to a landing page that talks about it with a call to action. That way, every time I email them, it's on my email signature. I don't have to change it. It's one activity I did one time. I spent one day doing it, and now I get to reap the results for the rest of the time whenever I go and I put in effort into my farm. So everyone thinks, okay, I'm just going to work a farm. That means I'm going to go door knock the neighborhood and pass off flyers with infographics on the market. Who wants to get home after work and read a flyer about the analytics of the market in our area? No one. Come on. I mean, maybe an engineer might, but no one really. So let's be more strategic. And this is nothing that's like amazing stuff. There's a guy in San Francisco at Keller Williams. I think he's the #1 agent, something like in Northern California or in San Francisco in Keller Williams. But he does a ton of deals. He teaches courses on how he worked 3 different neighborhoods where he would walk it with a flyer during trash day and offer to help bring in people's trash, and then tell them he's an agent, bring in their trash cans after the trash, right in the evening time. Like he learned when people were coming home from work in each neighborhood, and then would walk in and say, hey, do you need help bringing in your trash can? Hey, do you need help bringing in your trash can? I'm a real estate agent. And he kills it. So you want to have some strategy, right? And then just continue to stick with it. So I like to pick things that have multiple effects. So once again, what can I realistically do? I meet people all the time who are like, I'm going to have a farm of 1,000 homes. I'm like, okay, what are you going to do to reach out to the 1,000 homes? I'm going to send them mailers. Oh, okay. Let's say it's $1 a mailer, which is even 75 cents. That's $750 a month. Are you prepared to do that for more than a year and just stick with it, even with no results? Most people are going to say no. They were just going to send it one time. Okay, that's not going to have a huge effect, unless if it's something crazy. Like Tony Robbins always tells the story of this real estate agent that he coached. The guy was working in this really high-end neighborhood, and they had basically the trash company or whatever went on this big strike. And so people's trashes were just piling up. And the guy said, hey, Tony, I want to pay for a private company. It'll be about $5,000 to come and pick up all the trash. Tony said, great, just don't tell anyone that you did it. And he's like, why? It doesn't that defeat the purpose? He's like, people will find out, trust me. And so he did that, and he's like the number one agent in that area or whatever. Like things like that have a bigger effect, right? Because you're giving something of value. Now, do you have to do something that great? No, but we can maximize your efforts with multiple things. So back to, I'm at my event. What am I going to have? I'm going to have flyers with calls to action. What is going to entice someone who's thinking about selling to sell? So I want people to invite their friends and family to come. I want to know everyone in the community. I want to know who's in a tricky situation, who's not. I'm going to offer, like, what's my age demographic in the neighborhood I'm wanting to work. If it might be older, maybe I'm going to go to someone who does reverse mortgages and is ethical about it. And I'm going to offer that. I'm going to also offer, have a flyer for someone who's a financial advisor, right? I want to be a resource, and I'm going to have calls to action. So let's say I have a flyer for a financial advisor. I'm going to find someone who can create some type of custom link for me when they book it, so that they know, hey, this person's associated with them. I'm going to tell that financial advisor, I really want you to talk me up. That's all I want from it. I want you to talk me up to these people if they use you. Maybe even like whatever it might be, I'm going to have a table with those flyers. Okay. When I'm there and I'm meeting people in person, what am I going to do after that? I'm going to try to build a relationship with them, find something that they enjoy doing that I can enjoy doing with them. Hey, what do you like to do? Do you like to walk around? Like, if it were me, if someone really likes going on walks, let's put together a walking group in our neighborhood. I want to find ways where I can get in front of them. Like, do they play pool? How about we start a pool league? Do they like to play soccer, whatever sports? Do they have kids? And when do you like to come to the park with your kids? Do you like to come to the park with your kids? I'm going to find ways, and then I'm going to add their contact info. And like, let's say I have kids and they have kids. I'm going to make it a goal that once a month, I'm going to invite them, or even twice a month, to go hang out with me and our kids, right? I'm going to be so intentional, because that's my Saturday, Sunday activity, is I'm meeting with the people in my neighborhood 3 to 5 times a week. I don't need to meet with every single one, because the thing is if I'm meeting with half of a quarter of my neighborhood. So I've got a farm of 1,000 homes. I'm meeting with 250 people. It's a lot, but let's say it is that 250 once a quarter, I'm meeting with them. I know that they are meeting with more people in their neighborhood on a regular basis and having conversations about possibly selling or life events, or so-and-so is going through a divorce. Now they can bring it up to me, and I can say, oh, that house is going through a divorce. Which house is it? And I can look them up, call them, drop off a flyer. I specialize in transitional sales. Whether you're going through a divorce or other major life, a death in the family, or other major life event, just know I specialize with the utmost ethics and professionalism, and I'm here to help in any way I possibly can. Right? I'm going to look up and I'm going to find a way to make that flyer as sweet and enticing as possible. This is how we do this, right? This is how we look at, if I'm trying to establish myself in some type of business, right? Last week, we talked a lot about, I want a referral-based business. Well, how do I grow my sphere of influence? How do I grow my past client list? How do I then tap into them more? How do I build a relationship with these people more? This is the same thing. It's, how do I maximize my effort? If there's an apartment complex in there, do not discount that apartment complex, because those are buyers that may want to live in the neighborhood. Now, if I have a list of buyers, it's easier for me to come and say, in every listing appointment, you better believe I'm going to have the best listing presentation. You better believe that even though I don't need to do drone shots for every single listing, I am definitely doing Matterport, drone shots, everything, because it's not just about, is this necessary to sell the house? At that point, if my goal is to work that neighborhood, I'm showing off. I'm showing off that I do everything, right? Case in point, we have someone in our brokerage who works hospital workers a lot. I told him, I said, you got to go above and beyond with this listing, because he got a listing of a hospital worker that he doesn't even work with. because he also works at the hospital. He used to work with him at some point in time, so they stayed in touch. So what did he do? He got drone shots, just a couple. He did a whole Matterport, and he ran ads on social media. Great thing about that is that guy's whole, everyone he worked with was like, oh my gosh, I see all the ads. It's Nate Augustine. He does such a great job advertising you. That is so cool. Those videos were great. Now he has built a huge reputation for himself within that hospital community. So now that he's gotten feedback on it, how is he going to get in front of those people? Because it's not about convincing them to sell. That's not what it is. It's about catching them in the moment that they're thinking about selling and being the one who's front of mind with them, who's the expert. So that's the goal with your neighborhood, right? I'm going to go, and if there's a local bar, maybe I won't be a bartender, right? But I would go and I would build relationships with businesses in that community too. If it's an apartment complex, I want to make sure that I'm advertising to them as well. And I'm going to brag to my, to anyone that I go to list their house, or anyone in a community when they're saying, yeah, houses in this area don't really sell, or they take a little while. Okay, well, guess what? I actually work that apartment down the street. If people can afford that apartment, they can afford houses here. And so I have a ledge up, or a step up, whatever you want to call it. I have an advantage that most other agents that are in this area don't have, because I really have built a relationship within that apartment complex. So whenever I have a listing, I advertise it to people in that apartment complex. Why? Because I have their email from our event. And Mr. and Mrs. Seller, or whoever it is you're talking to, you know that event that I did in the park a few weeks ago or a few months ago? Well, I also advertised that to this local apartment complex, and I have 100 emails for people who are in that apartment complex that might be looking to buy, and I'm going to advertise it. So Joe Schmo over here may just post it on Zillow and Realtor.com. I'm going to advertise it in this many ways. You're going to really show off, even if someone's not ready to sell. Now, there's so many other things you can do too, right? What I like to do with my Fridays and my work week is go through lists, go through the internet, and find new creative things that I think are super cool. I literally had someone recommend to me to create Spotify playlists with my name and like license number and information. And what would happen is people will go to like a holiday playlist and they'll see my name and information. Now, will that work? I don't know. But that's what you do on Friday, is you get more creative, because Monday through Thursday, you're going to get pretty bored doing the same tasks. It's really boring sitting, going through my list of people in the neighborhood, adding them on social media, sending them an invite to our next event. It's really boring and I don't like it. But Friday, I get to be really creative. I can go through and I can say, okay, should I put together should I pay someone to be a door knocker and leave hangers? Like, what would that look like? What if I gave out, I did a raffle at my next event for merchandise. Like, I know that there's a local gym, and so I'm going to say, hey, do you guys want to work a co-branded event where I'll give a raffle with our t-shirts, I don't know, or like a coffee mug. So that way I'm spreading my brand in there. Client pop-bys, I'm putting by gifts together for people in the neighborhood who came to my event. Maybe I'm connecting with a local probate attorney and saying, hey, I'd love to put on, or your probate attorney are usually someone who creates a trust. Hey, I want to put together an event in this neighborhood where we talk to them about the value of putting their home in a trust. Would you do that with me? But that's what you can do on Fridays, because I want to figure out what works and what doesn't. And I can guarantee you, this guy in San Francisco who said, oh, I'm going to go and I'm going to work these neighborhoods and I'm going to go during trash night. I don't think he sat there and said, I know without a doubt 100% that if I go and give someone a flyer when they're bringing their trash can in, that I'm going to get, I think he does like 260 listings a year or something like that, or deals a year. I'm going to get 260. I guarantee you, he doubted himself every step of the way. I guarantee, but he knew that if he just stuck with something and he figured out what tended to work best, that it would work. And so he just figured out that if he went on trash day at 3 o'clock in one neighborhood, 5 o'clock in another neighborhood, that he was getting in front of people way more often than just door knocking in the middle of the day. That's what I would do, right? I would try to figure out what's going to be best. I'm going to work any listings I can get within my neighborhood is going to be money, because it's a way for me to show off to everyone else. Personally, I do not think you should get custom branded open house signs just to advertise the open house. No one's going to see and be like, Cameron Ripley at Vision Forward Realty, I can clearly see the open house information on there. I want to go to that open house. No, most people just see it on Zillow and go to the open house. But I would create a custom branded open house signs, and I would knock on neighbors' houses that live on the corner and say, hey, I'm doing an open house down the street for the Joneses. I don't want to just put this on your front lawn without asking permission, but I'd really like to drive traffic. They hired me to sell their house. I'm really trying to do an amazing job for them. Is it okay if I put this kind of on your lawn or maybe on your bark? Just so that people can actually see it. It's not on the sidewalk. So if people are walking, they're having to step over my sign. Is that okay if I put it there? It's going to look so professional when it's branded to me. I'm definitely not going to put it there without asking permission, though, because that will also have the opposite effect. But that's essentially what I would do. Is everything I do, I want to make sure I have multiple effects with it. So I'm not just buying custom branded open house signs because I think people are going to actually see my logo on there. I think people are just going to see the word open house as they're quickly driving by. It's more for people in the neighborhood to constantly see me. So I will do anything I can to get listings in that neighborhood. The more listings I get, the more I dominate in that neighborhood. So I'm going to also work divorce leads. It's super cheap. You can get with any title company. You can technically pay for Property Radar. It's a tool investors use, Property Radar, but you still have to pay for information like divorce leads. You still have to pay for information like someone just filed an affidavit of death, which means someone on title passed away. But usually that's not the best approach. I'm just going to go to my local title and escrow company and say, give me this information. Like most of the time with them, it's I think like 10 cents or 25 cents for name, email, phone number of whoever filed for divorce in that area, in that neighborhood. The nice thing about that to me is whether it works or not, if I feel comfortable, great. If I don't, that's fine. Let me just send them an email. But I'm going to use ChatGPT, or I'm going to use someone who's an expert and get their messaging, and I'm going to put it together in an email. Or I'm going to go and I'm going to put it together in a flyer and just drop it off. And that flyer is never going to change. That email is never going to change. That text message will never change. If I do feel comfortable on the phone, then I'm going to make the phone call because I know it's going to go a lot longer. I'm going to make sure I can do any open houses. So if there's an agent who happens to get a listing in that neighborhood, I'm not upset, but I'm going to beg them to let me do an open house in that neighborhood because I am going to dominate that neighborhood. I'm not telling them that, but I really want to do a listing or an open house at their listing. I've had it where people are like, I really want to dominate in my neighborhood, but they won't let me do an open house because they're saying that it's not allowed. Our errors and omissions insurance covers any theft or mishaps that were to happen during an open house. It's hard to file for that. But I would just tell them that. Find an agent that will allow you. Not every agent's going to say yes. Not every homeowner is going to like you and want to use you, but that's okay. Same thing. I'm going to go with, like, let's see, if there's a school in that neighborhood or any event, like I'm going to go to that school and I'm going to say, I want to be a sponsor and a supporter of this school. Any events you guys have, I want to be on that list to sponsor. I want to be on that list to get here. Let's say you don't have money to sponsor that event or that whatever it is, or you think you don't. There might be another way. Like, hey, if you don't have money, go and volunteer. Hey, I'd love to be a volunteer at this school. If you guys have any fundraising events, I want to be the first one that you can get to volunteer. So how do I get added to this list? Why? Well, because I'm a real estate agent who loves this neighborhood, and I want to work in this neighborhood. And so I just want to have my presence known, and I want to support and help this neighborhood. So you better believe I'm going to make sure that if there's a school really close to the community I'm trying to dominate in, I'm going to be at every event. I'm going to be whatever it might be. Same thing. If like whatever it is that's in that area, if there's what else would be there? There's like what would you call it? Like a city YPN, I guess is what they call it. Or yeah, like not YPN. I don't even know. Like we have in Roseville, we have a community center. It's where the Parks and Rec is, but there's a discounted gym. I would do a lot of events there. If they did any fundraiser for any other local group, I'm going to make sure that I'm there as well. Because if I don't have money, well, I can volunteer. If I have a little bit of money, let me get with a loan officer who's willing to also maybe work in this neighborhood, or a trust attorney and say, let's co-sponsor something for this. It's a sports team that's doing a raffle. Let's put together a huge prize that they can raffle off. I'll dedicate 200. If you could dedicate 200, now we're doing $400. But what are we going to do it to? Well, there's a local restaurant within the neighborhood I'm trying to work. I'm going to pay for a $400 gift card for that restaurant, which they're going to be so excited about. And I'm going to then say, hey, if I buy a $400 gift card for your restaurant, can I put up a flyer for my event at the local park in your window? Right. I mean, hopefully this is making sense to anyone, and why it's like you have to start with that higher level thinking of what is it that I really want to do? I want to work referrals, or I want to work a neighborhood, or I want to work a kind of referral based business with other companies, or I really want to work the internet. Because from there, you need to pick things that are going to have the best effect that you can use to maximize your time. And then you want to have other things that it's like, I'm going to try it. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, at least I tried it and I know it didn't work, or I can start to perfect it. And then from there, you can start to work around your schedule. You can work around your budget. But it's hard to pick one of these millions of things to do if you're not envisioning what your ultimate business will look like in the next 5 or 6 years. That's where you really have to start. And then from there, we can help plan. And if someone doesn't know where to even begin, then that's where we can step in and we can talk about, like, what are your core values? What's important to you? What do you really want to do income wise and with your time and availability? Like, everyone's situation's different, so everyone's starting position's different, but it's easy for everyone to get to a point where they can dominate in any category. People have made millions of dollars, maybe millions of dollars selling coaching programs just on actively hunting for or activity hunting. Like, literally, they just set up activities and meet groups of people, right? No matter what it is you choose to do, there's a way to dominate it, but you have to be strategic about it. And this is how. So hopefully this is helpful for anyone watching the recording. Or Viviana, thanks for you joining. I know she's got her kids present too.